Jesse and I met online. It was as if I'd found my soulmate. And I hated knowing that someone I felt so connected to I could never really be with.
Wait, I thought you said you weren't gay.
I'm not.
You kiss like you, right?
I don't know what I am.
I think you're confused. I've been around straight women before, and I know this ends badly.
Danny was the kind of woman that women aspired to be. It took everything not to tell her how I felt.
What are you doing? What you're too afraid to?
It took me a year to build up the courage to ask Annika out. And the second I did, disaster.
You really like me.
I think you're amazing.
Her name was Sara. She hired me for in-house visits, and there was something about her that it drew me in. It was the softness of her skin, the warmness of her heart. Sometimes that's all we ever get. Just one perfect afternoon.
Lesbian Romance 2 presents itself as a mosaic rather than a linear narrative. 4 distinct stories bound together by a shared emotional grammar that privileges women's interior lives over spectacle, and Scene 1 with Kira and Sara functions as a quiet thesis statement for the entire film, establishing its core concern with how connection precedes identity, how feeling often arrives before language, and how women, especially queer women, are taught to mistrust the evidence of their own emotional experiences, beginning with a deceptively simple premise that resonates deeply in contemporary queer life. 2 people meet online through a shared love of the outdoors, a space culturally coded as open, free, and authentic. And what begins as playful correspondence slowly becomes a lifeline, marked by anticipation, ritual, and the subtle intimacy of being known through words before bodies ever enter the frame. The narrator's excitement at seeing Jesse's name in her inbox captures a universal queer feeling, the way attachment can grow in the protected space of distance, where desire feels safer because it is untested. And the film treats this not as naivete but as a genuine form of intimacy, honoring how many queer relationships begin in mediated spaces, precisely because they allow room for curiosity without immediate categorization. The revelation that Jesse is a woman operates not as a twist designed for shock, but as a mirror held up to the assumptions that structure heterosexual default thinking. And the protagonist's moment of realization at the door is filmed and narrated as confusion rather than disgust, disruption rather than rejection, which is crucial because it reflects how queerness often enters a life not as an external temptation, but as an internal contradiction that cannot be easily resolved. What follows is not a dramatic confrontation, but a mutual, almost tender recognition of misalignment, with Jessie laughing, contextualizing, and minimizing her own disappointment. In order to preserve the other woman's comfort, a dynamic painfully familiar to many queer women who have learned to absorb rejection gracefully, to translate hurt into humor, and to reassure straight or questioning women that no harm has been done, even when something meaningful has been lost. The film lingers on this aftermath, rather than rushing forward, emphasizing that what unsettles the narrator is not Jessie's gender, but the realization that connection does not obey the categories she thought defined her, and this becomes the emotional spine of the story, as she grapples with the dissonance between who she believes herself to be and what she feels when she thinks about Jessie, articulating a truth that many women, queer or not, recognize: that compatibility is often clearer than identity, that desire can feel less like hunger and more like ease, like relief, like finding someone whose presence organizes your own inner chaos. By inviting Jessie back into her life as friends, the narrator enacts a familiar compromise, one that mirrors real-world pressures on women to domesticate intensity into something manageable, to keep closeness but strip it of risk. And the film is deeply attentive to how this arrangement both protects and prolongs longing, as Jessie's careful respect for boundaries becomes its own form of pain, a demonstration of care that paradoxically heightens the emotional stakes. The moment when the narrator admits, even to herself, that she wants Jessie too, is framed not as a sudden awakening, but as the natural culmination of everything that has already been shown, reinforcing the film's argument that queerness is not always a discovery of something new, but often a recognition of something that has been quietly present all along. Importantly, the dialogue around labels, "I'm not gay, I don't know what I am," is treated with nuance rather than judgment, reflecting the reality that many women experience attraction before they feel entitled to claim an identity. And the film resists the urge to resolve this tension neatly, instead honoring the uncertainty as a valid and meaningful state. For lesbian and broader LGBTQ+ audiences, This scene resonates because it captures the emotional labor of being someone else's question mark, the vulnerability of offering sincerity in a context where it might be dismissed as confusion, and the courage it takes to stay present anyway. While for women more broadly, it speaks to the experience of discovering that desire does not always align with expectation, that the self you were taught to be may not encompass the self you are becoming. Across the film's 4 stories, this pattern repeats in different forms. Women encountering each other in spaces shaped by work, obligation, or chance, feeling something that unsettles the scripts they have inherited, and negotiating whether that feeling deserves acknowledgement. And Scene 1 establishes the ethical framework through which these encounters are viewed, one that prioritizes emotional truth over moral certainty, and treats women's inner lives as complex, evolving landscapes, rather than problems to be solved. The social discomfort with seeing women express love for each other hovers over the entire film, manifesting not through overt hostility, but through the subtler mechanisms of disbelief, minimization, and the insistence on categorization. And Scene 1 challenges this discomfort by presenting a connection that is undeniably real even before it is named, asking viewers to sit with the possibility that love does not require prior permission to exist. This discomfort persists today because women's love for women destabilizes the narratives that position heterosexuality as both natural and inevitable, and because it exposes how much emotional intimacy between women has been historically allowed only when it can be dismissed as non-threatening, a backdrop against which the narrator's struggle takes on broader significance as a refusal, however tentative, to dismiss her own experience. Symbolically, Jessie functions as both catalyst and mirror, embodying a form of groundedness and sincerity that contrasts with the narrator's anxiety without overpowering it, while the narrator represents the many women who move through life with a sense of near miss, of alignment just out of reach, until confronted with a connection that demands reevaluation. Their interaction reflects the real-world pressures on queer women to justify their feelings, to prove they are not experimenting, not misleading, not irresponsible. And the film's compassionate portrayal of this negotiation offers validation to viewers who have lived through similar moments of reckoning, by keeping the focus on conversation, internal monologue, and emotional pacing rather than visual excess. A Lesbian Romance 2 positions itself firmly as a work seeking authenticity rather than spectacle, inviting its audience, particularly women and LGBTQ+ viewers, to recognize themselves not in grand gestures, but in the quieter truths of anticipation, confusion, and courage. Scene 1, in its gentle insistence that connection matters even when it complicates identity, sets the tone for a film that understands queerness not as an anomaly, but as a facet of human experience that becomes visible when women allow themselves to listen to what they feel rather than what they have been told. And in doing so, the movie offers something rare and necessary. A space where women's love for each other is neither sensationalized nor sidelined, but treated as a legitimate transformative force worthy of patience, respect, and deep emotional attention.